What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to the Slide Job Podcast. It's been a while. I am here joined by, what do you want me to call you?
Yeah. Just call me Devin.
All right, I'm here joined by Devin. Today we will be breaking down the Kentucky race, talking about some interesting news about Paul Menard, some Xfinity and truck news, and some interesting news I saw right before I started this about the tire of the Gen 7, but make sure to hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and let's go ahead and get into this. So right away, I apologize for the mower in the background, but that's why I kind of wanted it to be kind of a night time, but I got stuff to do tonight, so that'd be afternoon. But first, let's go with the Kentucky recap, as it was definitely an interesting race. I actually missed stage 2, but stage 1 was a pretty good stage. Kurt Busch would end up winning. Suarez looked like he had the fastest car, but did not end up. I think he made like a bad pit decision and ended up just fading away or staying in the back. And then he had a penalty. But Kurt Busch would win stage 1. Stage 2 would go to Kyle Busch. I don't know what happened. If you can maybe enlighten us on what happened stage 2.
I didn't really catch most of the race either. I've just been filled in on the highlights I was able to watch. One thing that I do remember, one of the most controversial parts of the races is apparently what happened is that on the, I think it was either the second to final restart or the final restart, Byron ended up getting booked for jumping the restart. Because he did end up going too soon. The whole line ended up going too soon, and he actually ended up getting pushed ahead. But then he ended up slowing down, let the leader take the green flag first. But NASCAR still ended up booking him for jumping the line. So there was definitely a little controversy with the rules there.
Yeah, and then I heard somebody say that Clint Bore kind of let off, like didn't accelerate until he had to. Kind of to bait in William Byron, so there was a lot of controversy there. Anyways, stage 3, I came in probably right before green flag pit stops, where Kurt Busch seemed to have actually the fastest car. He was able to pull away kind of from, I think it was Logano and Busch. Then pit stops happened. He would take 4 tires. Eric Jones, Logano, and Kyle Busch would take 2 tires and not full gas, and they would be the top 3. Eric Jones miles away from him, it felt like, and Logano and Busch going for the lead. Logano would finally pass Busch, and Logano would seemingly have the win until Bubba Wallace would blow a tire, spin out, and I think it was turns 1 and 2, and a caution would come out. We'd go into overtime. Oh shoot, I just shook my table. We would go into overtime, and I think it was Logano and Busch. Kyle Busch was the front row, Jones and Kurt Busch behind him, and we would have the chaos that would be the final restart. And I'll give my thoughts on it. You can give your thoughts on it, and we'll in the end we'll see. What I saw was it looked like Logano could not get a restart. From every restart I saw, he could not get going. That did not change on the final restart. Busch would kind of try and, I don't even know. I kind of was just going crazy. And then Eric Jones would make it 3 wide, but then I think he either let off or Kyle Busch got one hell of a run, something or the other. Kurt Busch goes on the outside, by the way. And then Kurt Busch and Kyle Busch would pull away and just be side by side, beating and banging. I think Kurt Busch got a tire rub or something, or just smoke came up, and Eric Jones just sitting there in third. But it was crazy. It was definitely crazy.
Yeah, it was a very chaotic overtime finish, to say the least. Probably the best Kentucky finish ever. I don't know how you can make Kentucky. I don't know how you can make Kentucky exciting. But they managed to figure out how to do it. As far as what I saw on that final restart, they were going 3 wide into corner number 3. Eric Jones, he backed off because you don't want to go 3 wide into a turn at Kentucky willingly. I don't blame him for backing off there. And Kurt Busch and Kyle Busch, both of them just send it off into turn 3. And then they're just side by side for the next lap. You know, they're making contact all over the place going down the front straightaway. Kyle Busch ended up getting to Kurt Busch's left rear quarter panel, which ended up causing that tire rub that you ended up seeing through turns 1 and 2. But then turns 3 and 4, I didn't really see any smoke coming out of the car. Kurt Busch just got back into the throttle quicker, beat Kyle off the corner, beat him back to the line. And I mean, as far as what I can tell, Kurt Busch just continues to have a phenomenal season, despite Chevrolet's struggles. Despite Chevrolet's struggles this year, even though they've won 3 races in a row now. Chevrolet's definitely struggled a bit, but Kurt Busch seems to be like that lone outlier that seems to be doing really well week in and week out. He's got an average finish better than 10th. And so far as taking a look at average finish wise, this is Kurt Busch's best season to this point. Like, he is just tearing it up. He's doing an amazing job in that number 1 car.
Yeah, he really is, and I was going to talk about that later, but I mean, it's a good time to talk about it. He is really, I mean, if you look at Jamie McMurray, where he was at last season, I think he was a borderline top 15 car. Did he even make the playoffs? If he did, he barely made it. He really has turned around that program, and honestly has been better than Kyle Larson. Now, do I think if Kyle Larson could actually finish a race, he might have had better results, but he doesn't seem to be able to do that. But Kyle Larson did have a 4th place to his credit. But yeah, Kurt Busch has definitely consistently been the best car in the Chevy camp and CGR.
Yeah, Kyle Larson, and this has been a problem with Kyle Larson ever since he came into the Cup Series, really, is that, he'll go out there, he'll have a bad fast car, he'll run up front, but he's just got these consistency issues that end up plaguing him. Christopher Bell in the Xfinity Series is the exact same way. Like, Larson and Christopher Bell, they obviously have this amazing dirt track rivalry going on. But when they take it onto the pavement too, it's the same thing. They race as hard as they can every single lap. And sometimes it ends up backfiring where they either blow a tire, blow an engine, or getting into the wall, or something always ends up happening where they try to push the car too hard. And I think that's something that Larson and Christopher Bell, once he comes up to the Cup Series, is going to have to learn to manage if they want to end up contending for championships.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I can remember back to the beginning of last season when everybody thought that Kyle Larson was going to be actually not a championship contender, but a championship favorite. And we see how the tables have really turned from that.
Yeah, and some people blame the new package, but we'll get into that later. We'll get into that later. But anyways, getting back on topic with Kurt Busch here. Something that really surprises me about Kurt Busch is that even though he doesn't really have the wins or the top 5s to show for it, it always seems like he's always finishing in the fringes of the top 10. It's like 7th through 10th almost every single week. And I don't know how he ends up doing that, but hey, you know what? That's the kind of consistency that puts you in at least a position where you can go ahead and maybe make a strategy call to go ahead and try to win a race. And Kurt Busch actually had the car underneath him to go up there and win, and he just did it. So, I'm happy for him. I'm happy for Kurt Busch. I'm happy for Chevy. 3 wins in a row. Really good momentum for them.
Yeah, and last thing here, I personally think that he will be, but what are your thoughts? Do you think Kurt Busch will still be in that 1 car next season?
Kurt Busch is going to be, I would not, if they end up taking him out of the 1 car, that would be a pretty asinine move. I mean, I understand that he's going into his age 41 season next year. Decline's probably on the horizon for him. But Kurt Busch, with the way that he's driven this season, if Chevrolet starts really heating up here down the summer stretch now, going into Loudon, Watkins Glen, I got to tell you what, Kurt Busch keeps his momentum up. I see him being a good contender getting to that Final 4.
Oh, yeah, he could definitely sneak in there. And I don't even know if it'd be really conservative Joe Logano if he keeps up what he's doing. So definitely should be interesting. But moving on here, we're going to go ahead and go over the results. If I can find them on my computer. There we go. Obviously, Kurt Busch finishing first. We talked about him. Kyle Busch finishing second. While, for Kyle Busch, that's probably not good. It's probably been his best 1.5-mile race altogether all season. He's somewhat struggled at the 1.5 miles. Eric Jones in third place. I mean, he's really just kind of there. He's really quiet. But great finish for him, especially trying to keep that ride. Kyle Larson 4th. Like I said earlier, I mean, that's good for him. He hasn't been having the best results recently, except I guess he finished second at Chicago. So he has been having decent results. But Denny Hamlin 5th. I don't even know where he came from, to be honest with you. Clint Bowyer 6th. I best SHR car, and then a day that they looked pretty strong, and then just as usual, just kind of faded throughout the race for whether it's their fault or not. Joey Logano 7th. He definitely had a race winning car, definitely a top 3 car, if not, like I said, race winning. Daniel Suarez 8th. I think he really had a fast car. It just a lot of setbacks just really held it back. In 8th place really is a crazy finish considering the day he had. Ryan Newman 9th. Don't know where he came from. I think he got there on strategy, but he's another one that not really Matt Kenseth, but Trevor Bayne definitely has improved a lot on that 6 program. And I don't think that was really all Matt Kenseth last season. Really, SHR. Our Roush has really improved a lot over the past year. And Ryan Newman has honestly outperformed Ricky Stenhouse, in my opinion. And then 10th place, Chris Buescher. Mile and a half. You never would have thought mile and a half to be JTT Daugherty's strong point, but Chris Buescher has proved that really is their strong point this season.
And I've actually been really impressed with the way that JTG program's really taken out. I mean, you're talking, with the exception of a fluke season by AJ Allmendinger in 2016, they've been pretty much exclusively a 20th or worse average finish car. And now here, Chris Buescher is coming out and he's trying to do better than what AJ Allmendinger did in 2016, which I think AJ Allmendinger had a 17.8 or a 17.2 or something like that. 17 something in 2016, just had a phenomenal season for JTG. And now Chris Buescher, he's out here and he's putting up a 17.9. He's putting up top 15s a lot this season, and it really shows clearly that partnership getting away from Richard Childress and coming over to Hendrick Motorsports. This is clearly worked out for JTG Daugherty Racing, and I would completely agree that's absolutely the right call. I think any team associating with Richard Childress anymore is insane, considering how much they've backslided over the last 5 years. Yeah, I mean, they clearly went the right call, and you know what? Ryan Newman, what he's done with this 6 car so far this season has been great. I mean, Ryan Newman, he's gotten back into the 6 car. Everyone's been thinking that this has been a dead team, that Roush Racing's just been a dead team. And although Ryan Newman, he obviously hasn't had a car to win yet, and he only has 1 top 5 on the season, Newman's got 7 top 10s and an average finish of 13.8. That's nothing to laugh at. He's doing a phenomenal job in that 6 car. Very impressed with him.
Yeah, I'm trying to find his or not his, but Trevor Bayne's stats from last season. It's you can't even compare them as it's loading right now. To be fair, I'll do a full-time season. His last full-time season, he had 2 top 5s and 6 top 10s. But if you think about it, I'm sure Newman will probably get another top 5. And how many top 10s does he have already?
7.
So he's already passed him in that. So, yeah, definitely Newman has turned around that program, and I don't think anybody really saw him being the best car in that program, or best driver in the Roush program.
No, I wasn't expecting him to outperform Stenhouse, to be honest, and I'm not saying this as a credit to Stenhouse's ability, but I thought that Ryan Newman, I figured that he was just going to come over here, give some veteran know-how to the team, maybe hopefully help out that 17 program, because Stenhouse needs a lot of help in order to be competitive over here. But Newman himself, he's gone out here and he's raced really hard. He's got, and he's been on a hot streak himself, barring a 17th place finish at Chicagoland. He's been in the top 10 4 times out of the last 5 races. He's done a phenomenal job, and he even led 15 laps last night. So he's clearly doing well. Crazy. We got some technical issues going on here. All right, anyways, I don't know exactly what's going on here, but I'm just going to go ahead and talk about Kyle Busch here for a little bit because, man, what a season he's been having. It's been crazy, although he's kind of cooled off a little bit over the past couple of weeks with a 22nd at Chicago and 14th at Daytona. He's been by far and away the best driver, and you figure, how dominant he's been in Xfinity and trucks. They end up bringing a package which is very much like the Xfinity and Truck Series. You bring it up to the Cup Series, and Kyle Busch does phenomenally. Who would have thought that? Yeah, Kyle Busch has just been red hot the entire season. He's usually a very streaky driver to begin with. He had that crazy good start to the season, and it does not seem like he's going to be cooling off anytime soon.
Yeah, sorry about that. I had some technical issues there.
All right.
Yeah, Kyle Busch has been having a pretty great season. I don't know how to even explain it. It's just kind of come to expect it from him, I guess. But moving on, we'll go ahead and get 11 through 12 here. Paul Menard, 11th. That's pretty good, especially with the rumors about his future in the 21 car, which we'll get to in a minute here. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., 12th. We talked about him a little bit earlier, but at least he's able to finally finish a race. Ryan Blaney, 13th. It's interesting. Ryan Blaney is kind of, I don't know, he's just kind of mediocre, it seems like. Like, he made more waves in that 21 car than he really has in the 12 car. And that's the weird. I mean, he's had better stats, but if you get what I mean,
yeah,
he's kind of, I knew him more in the, like, you heard about him more in the 21, I guess would be a better. Eric Almirola, 14th. He was up front for the beginning, but I don't know what really happened to him, to be honest with you. Chase Elliott, 15th. I mean, I think he spun out, blew a tire on that last restart. 15th, I guess, is a pretty good finish for that. Matthew Benedetto, 16th. He's kind of on the hot seat, so any good finish he can get is definitely good for him. Alex Bowman, 17th. He was just quiet all day. I guess my friend Chenry, the usual co-host, he said he was in the top 10 and then they took left tires and the tire blew. And I said, oh, what are we at the Glen or something? And yeah, so I guess that summons Greg Gives' ability to be a crew chief, in my opinion. William Byron, 18th. The whole controversy we talked about earlier kind of ended his day. He seemed to have a fast car, but obviously was unable to stay up front because of the penalty. Something swung my eye. Martin Truex Jr., 19th. His reign of sweeping the stage in races is over. He just didn't seem to have the car to really do it. And 19th place was his finish. And Brad Keselowski finishing 20th. I don't even know. He seemed to be up front early, but wasn't able to keep that.
Yeah, and something that actually has really surprised me this season is the lack of performance from Brad Keselowski, because I was honestly figuring coming into this season, I was honestly figuring that, I'll tell you right up front, I was completely wrong about the Gibbs cars starting to struggle due to this package. I completely overlooked, like I said, since this is very much closer to an Xfinity package than a true Cup package here at these mile and a halves. I should have known that Kyle Busch was going to be crazy good in this, but for some reason, I didn't think he was going to do well because I thought there was going to be more open throttle at the mile and a half than there have been. So that doesn't necessarily correlate to what I thought was going to happen. I was figuring that Keselowski and Logano were just going to dominate the championship, and I also thought that Matt DiBenedetto was going to come out of nowhere to be very good in that LFR car. That definitely has not happened, but I'm honestly really surprised that Brad Keselowski is not doing better this season. I would figure that this is the kind of package that he would really shine in. I'm not quite sure what the struggles have been with the two team to this point in the season, but I was honestly expecting more out of him this year.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you think about it, he has, 3 wins? 4 wins?
He does have the 3 wins, but outside of the 3 wins, he's been very, very inconsistent to say the least.
No, the point I was going to make was actually, to your point, he didn't really 100% deserve Kansas. I think that race should have gone to Bowman, in my opinion. because he just had fresher tires, and obviously Bowman kind of wore off, but he didn't really deserve that one. And what was his other win?
He's got
Phil, and Vegas was not the most deserving. So if all things go out like normal, he only has one win.
And that's where he led 446 laps at Martinsville, 450, something like that.
Yeah. So I think he kind of deserved that one. But I mean, even then, Chase Elliott looked like he kind of had a faster car at the end. But we won't go into that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm just surprised.
Yeah, he's been pretty. I see Paul Wolf, and he's a great crew chief, but they seem to be that team that makes the opposite decision. Whatever everybody else is doing, they seem to do the opposite, which can be good and bad at the same time. And I think they just, we got 3 wins. We don't really have to, worry about points and stuff. So they're just kind of doing different stuff. But I think, I don't know.
I guess that could be the case. The fact that, they won at Atlanta and they've just been maybe playing it conservatively since that win at Atlanta. But that kind of gets broken up when you consider how, Joey Logano, he hasn't been as good as Kyle Busch, but I'd probably say he's been the second best driver to this point in this season, and definitely the best Ford. So that kind of breaks it up.
And then moving on to just some notables here. It looks like Bubba Wallace 23rd after blowing a tire. I mean, that's pretty good. Kevin Harvick 22nd. I guess they had a sour engine. I saw Bob Pocker's tweet that he had a sour engine. Something, whatever that means. I mean, I know what it means, but yeah. Bubba Wallace, like I said, 23rd. I think he was actually higher and looking pretty good until he blew his tire. Daniel Hemrick, 24th. He just kind of faded throughout the day. Jimmy Johnson, 30th. He spun out, I guess, while I was gone in stage 2, but 30th place. They had a lot of momentum going into this weekend, and it's kind of unfortunate to see that kind of fizzle out with that 30th place finish. Austin Dillon, 35th. I actually have no clue because he was up front last I saw.
Yeah, Austin Dillon, 35th. Man, that's going to be back-to-back worse than 30th place finishes for that team. That's not good. That's not good. And again,
they basically virtually need a win to get in.
Yep. And again, with how Richard Childress has been backsliding, even though Austin Dillon's backed his way into 2 crown jewel wins. That's the best way that I can describe Austin Dillon's point to this season. If you really take a look at Dillon's stats, though, it's kind of concerning to say the least, because although Dillon's never been great in the Cup Series, this has also been a really, really bad season for that 3 team. I mean, it's almost as bad as his sophomore season, and his sophomore season was pretty rough with an average finish of 21st, and his average finish is worse than 20th to this point in the season. So it's been a struggle. It's been a really big struggle, not just for Dillon, but also for Daniel Hemrick, too. He just can't get anything going with his rookie season here. Also with an average finish worse than 20th. So it's really been a struggle for these guys.
I do want to add, though, I feel like at least half of his bad results, I mean, some of it has been him, but I feel like some of it has not been all Austin Dillon bad results. I know yesterday wasn't some mechanical failure, whatever happened to him.
Yeah.
I know Michigan didn't seem to really be his fault. He blew a tire. Like, a lot of it's been mechanical or been caught up in a wreck. But regardless, it's been a pretty bad season for him.
Exactly, yeah. And I'm not saying anything about the skill of Austin Dillon here either. I'm just saying that Richard Childress in general has just had a god awful season, and they really need to dig themselves out of this one, because having 2 cars. Fielding 2 cars with an average finish of worse than 20th. Man, that's a really big backslide from having the best car in the best car in the entire field at the turn of the decade. So that's a really big backslide from one end of the decade to the other.
But hey, they're good at qualifying.
Yeah, they're great at qualifying. An average finish of average start rather of 11.5. They got qualifying down. They don't have the race down though.
And last thing here about RCR is maybe Tyler Reddick could be kind of their savior. I mean, he did well at Kansas. Me personally, I think it'd probably be better if they just, outs Daniel Hemrick and put him in the 8 for money reasons. But if they open up the 31 team, I don't see why it shouldn't have sponsorship. So I don't know. I think that Tyler Reddick could be the savior of RCR.
Yeah, I think even if Tyler Reddick came over to RCR, I think he would even have a hard time getting an average finish of better than 15. That's really the state of this team right now. They are really, really struggling. So I'm kind of worried right now because Tyler Reddick is having a phenomenal Xfinity campaign right now.
Yeah.
Phenomenal. Like, he's head and shoulders above everyone else, like above Custer, above Bell, above Cindric, above everybody. He has had a phenomenal season. I think his average finish is 5th. Nuts.
It's like 4 or 5, and that is before he had like a DNF, which I think he only has 1. It was a 3. Like, he was always, even Kentucky. I don't even think he had really the best race at Kentucky. Still finished 3rd. Like, I mean, he was about 20 seconds behind the leaders, but he finished 3rd. So, I mean, he's just consistent, and I think that's something that RCR, whether it's good consistency, like, whatever Tyler Reddick can give him, I think it'll just be consistent results. So I think that's what Penske RCR needs right now.
Yeah, and that is what they need. And we'll see what happens, whatever they decide to do with Tyler Reddick, Daniel Hemrick, Austin Dillon, whether if they decide to keep 2 cars and like bump someone to another team or bump someone back to Xfinity. I don't know exactly what they would do there, considering that, and Hemrick, Hemrick's not a bad driver either, because he clearly showed that he could go out there and compete in the Xfinity against these same guys that I was just talking about. So it's not like the Hemrick's a bad driver here. It's just they're struggling. It sucks.
Yeah. So what I want to kind of move on to here is and I don't have the exact quotes, but I can remember Joey Logano's, and I know Kyle Busch was just doing his usual complaint, but they both had issues with the 2019 package. We obviously knew Kyle Busch has been outspoken about his disagreement with the package, but Joey Logano, I mean, I think he has said something, but has not been as outspoken. But he basically complained about the restarts, which, in my opinion, I don't know what he wanted them to do, not call a caution because of Bubba Wallace. Like, he kind of blew his tire on the track. There's not really much they can do about that. And he obviously had a pretty bad restarting car. And I understand why he was obviously frustrated, but there isn't really much to blame on the package for that, because it was a caution that had to be called, and he got the short end of the stick. I mean, that's kind of unfortunate, but Kyle Busch as well it was so short because he knew he probably wasn't really being accurate, but he did take a shot at the package. But I think all in all, the package here really, really improved the race. There was a lot of strategy involved, and then obviously that ending was probably the best ending at Kentucky, and in my opinion, it's not on par, but it's just a little bit below that of the Chicagoland finish the year before. The slide drop. That's all I have to say.
Exactly. No, the package really had nothing to do with Joe Logano. He muffed the restart. He's been muffing restarts the entire night. I get the frustration there. And Kyle Busch, here's the way that it works for Kyle Busch. The more he complains, the better he does, the more he complains.
Yeah,
that's typically how it works. And Kyle Busch, by far and away, better than everyone else, non-stop complaining about the package. The worse he says his car is, the faster he is. And that's just how Kyle Busch is. I don't know how that ends up working in his mind, but that's how it is. The worse he says the car is. I mean, he famously said, after winning the first ever Car Tomorrow race, that the car was terrible.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing about this one. So he's been by far and away the best driver so far this season. Don't know what else to say. I think the package worked very well for Kentucky. Like you said, this has actually brought some strategy, which is something that we've really needed because stages kind of take away from said pitch strategy.
All right.
But clearly there was actually some deviating strategies in here, and it ended up having that very intriguing race that we ended up seeing. So, I mean, we'll see what ends up happening here. I really don't want to go ahead and talk too much about the package here because it's really a tough decision because not one package is going to end up creating exciting racing for all tracks.
Oh yeah.
That's just a plain old fact. What the package that creates good racing at Kansas is not going to create good racing at Martinsville. That's just the way that it is. As far as the mile and a half so far this season, they've been great. For the most part, they have been great. They've actually brought intrigue to the mile and a halves, which is something that NASCAR really needed, considering half the schedule is mile and a halves. As far as like the shorter races, though, they've not been as good. Even though they've been running the higher horsepower at the short tracks, it's that higher downforce package at the short tracks that they are turning these corners into less tire grip limited and mechanical grip limited to aero grip limited. And once you make that turn from mechanical grip to aero grip limited, that's when you end up hearing all these concerns about the dirty air, and that's kind of what's been making the tracks shorter than mile and a halves less than ideal to watch. There have been some cases where there's been decent racing there, but that's the way that I see with the package. So far, it seems to make the racing okay at the mile and a halves. Pocono, it's Pocono. I mean, it's my home track, but it's Pocono. I think you kind of need to run the full horsepower package at that track because it really plays. Because Pocono really plays, and it's going to be the same thing when we go to Indianapolis, because Pocono and Indianapolis almost play the exact same way. Turn 2 at Pocono is actually the same thing as any of the other turns at Indianapolis. But Pocono really plays more like a road course than an oval, because you got the 3 different corners, the 3 different radiuses, the 3 different bankings. It really plays a lot more like a road course, even though it is not a road course. So that's the main reason why you saw the shoddy racing at Pocono. But other than those, I'm fine with this package.
Oh yeah. And I mean, I don't understand why they can't. I guess it would be kind of hard on the race teams, but maybe switching up a different package like they do at Atlanta and Chicagoland was a slightly different package. Maybe do that for other tracks.
I mean, it's just aero ducts.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, it's just aero ducts.
It doesn't, and that doesn't really do much, anyways. To be quite honest.
All right. Moving on, we're going to go ahead and before we get into kind of some more news, we got the NASCAR standings here. Joey Logano is currently leading with Kyle Busch in second, somehow without any wins. Kevin Harvick is third with points. Brad Keselowski 4th, Denny Hamlin 5th, Truex 6th, Kurt Busch 7th, Chase Elliott 8th, Alex Bowman 9th, Eric Almirola 10th, Ryan Blaney 11th, which is kind of interesting me about Ryan Blaney, considering, I mean, hasn't really had the best of seasons, yet he's currently in 11th right now.
I guess stage points.
Top 5 and stage points.
Stage points right there.
William Byron 12th, Kyle Larson 13th. And then here's where it kind of gets interesting here. We got Clint Bowyer and Jimmy Johnson tied for 14th. Eric Jones on the cutoff line in 16th. Ryan Newman just 2 points back in 17th. Daniel Suarez, Ricky Stenhouse a ways back. Actually, Suarez is just 2 points behind Newman.
Yeah.
Stenhouse is a ways back. Menard, why did I even mention his name? And Chris Busch 21st.
Yep.
Which is, again, really good for JTD Daugherty. And who knows, if he gets a win, I would not be surprised if he sneaks into the round of 12. Like, he definitely could turn it on, especially with the beginning of the the first round that we have.
Yep.
With the Roval. I don't remember the first round, but it kind of caters towards kind of the little guy maybe sneaking in there.
Absolutely, it definitely does. And I'll tell you what, I'll say that we've had a much rainier than average summer, and so far this month it hasn't been any different. So they come back to Pocono in a couple of weeks. Maybe we can get another fog bank rolling in for Buescher to win another one.
Yeah, hopefully. I mean, he's
that'd be crazy
doing his rain dance, which it worked last time. Well, I guess it was fog dance, but
not a drop of rain fell that day. I was actually at that race where Chris Buescher won. Not a drop of rain fell that day on the track. It was crazy. They dried off the track, and before the race, once the race started, there wasn't a single drop of rain. All the rain stayed parked. I'd say maybe 5-10 minutes to the north. Because I live maybe 15 minutes away from the racetrack. So we got to go north. And as soon as we jumped the county line, as soon as we jumped into the next county over, there was flash flooding all over the place. The rain was just coming down torrentially. You couldn't even see. It was nuts. The road was completely washed over. Just crazy weather conditions that day. But yeah, Chris Buescher would be a very interesting pick to get into the playoffs.
Oh, yeah. And yeah, he's definitely been doing pretty good. But moving on here to the Xfinity race, and I guess we don't have to recap because I couldn't recap it if I even tried. But again, the big three finishing 1, 2, 3. And as the season goes on, it looks like one has a great race. Cole Custer had it at Kentucky. The other one right behind him, and obviously the third one there. And then the next race seems like one takes it, and then the other two right behind him. It seems to be kind of the running theme here in the Xfinity Series.
Yeah, that's really what it's been. It's been the Custer, Bell, and Reddick show, no doubt about it. That's just the way that it's been. Custer and Bell.
There isn't anybody you could say is like a fourth, because they're the only ones to have won this year. And something I find funny, you haven't seen anybody complain about it yet. People actually enjoy it because it's not Kyle Busch and
because it's not Kyle Busch and Kevin Harvick. Yeah. But yeah, because it's actually young guys and people want to actually get behind the young guys. Nobody really wants to get behind the old guard anymore. But yeah, you take a look at it so far this season. It's really been the Reddick, Bell, and Custer show, with Austin Cindric also lurking in the shadows. He seems to be the fourth place person every single week. Not this past week though. Cindric, I'm not even seeing him. You're 14th. He got the pole though.
He had the pole though, and he was up there for a little bit. But Bell took the lead. Noah Gregson was the other one I wanted to talk about. He seems to have a car. If he can get up front, he will stay up front. But if he gets to the back, he cannot, make.
Yeah, he can't make
progress. Yeah, and I guess not the worst thing because at least he can hold it. But he needs to, in order to maybe get in the conversation of winning, it would very likely be, he has to get to the front and obviously win a race.
Yeah, it's going to be a struggle for him, but he's learning. This is what the Xfinity Series is for. One thing I will note is that the Cup winner at Daytona struggled to get into the top 10 in the Xfinity race. So all I gotta say is that makes the Xfinity drivers look pretty damn good.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's taken a little bit out of context, but
no context withstanding there. But Justin Haley finished 10th.
Well, since we mentioned Justin Haley, I will actually point out that in that equipment, he's outperforming Brandon Jones, which isn't saying much, but he's about this on par with Chase Briscoe and some other drivers in a lot better equipment than he is. I actually looked that up.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from Justin Haley's talents, and obviously Kaulig racing with that very impressive 1-2-3 at Daytona. But other than that,
hasn't really. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I shouldn't really say 1-2-3 finish. Dinger got disqualified, but provisionally a 1-2-3 finish, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. See what else? Oh, and I just want to point out how great of a rookie battle that would be between the big three. I mean, there's a chance it could happen, and if it does, it will literally be the race within the race. Like, you're going to be watching the race, and you're like, all right, I want to see what's going on with the other three
rookies. Guys. Yeah, the rookies. Even though, as we've already said, Tyler Reddick's probably, even though he's probably not going to be in there, it's really going to be between. Because if it ends up happening that the rumors are true and Levine's going to have a second car, probably the 59, if they end up doing that, bring back the 59 car, and they'll throw, say, Eric Jones over to the 59 or whoever they decide to throw over there, and then bring Christopher Bell into the 20, and then Cole Custer replaces Clint Boyer. I mean, that would create a very intriguing rookie battle. I mean, that would be pretty close to the rookie battle that we saw not too long ago between Eric Jones and Daniel Suarez. That was pretty highly touted.
Oh, yeah.
Except Eric Jones kind of ran away with it and damn near won at Bristol. So, yeah, there you go. That's going to be a very good rookie battle between Custer and Bell once they come up.
Definitely. And yeah, that's really all I got for the Xfinity Series. Anything you got about that?
No, I don't really got much about the Xfinity Series. One thing I will know, Ryan Sieg came away with another top 10. So
this dude literally builds his own cars and he's in the top 10.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
crazy.
They're doing an amazing job. So I just wanted to give another shout out there to Ryan Sieg. Another top 10. Great job there.
Yeah. He's having a great season. Moving on to the Truck Series, we'll start out with Natalie Decker throwing down Spencer Boyd's hat. Oh my gosh. And now they have a t-shirt about it too. Spencer Boyd. That was really quick. I feel like that might have been staged. I mean, the t-shirts came out within hours of the incident. So yeah. I mean, I don't blame Decker for being mad, and we'll kind of get into her season so far. A lot of people give her hate for wrecking a lot. From what I've seen, she hasn't been the cause of the wreck a lot. She gets caught up, which is a part of racing. I'm not trying to give her a pass for being, you got to be able to maneuver a wreck as a part of racing, but a lot of people saying she doesn't have talent. I don't know if she's really deserving of a ride either, but a lot of people saying she doesn't have talent because she gets caught up in a lot of wrecks. I just don't think that's the case.
I mean, I'm not going to say that she has tons of talent because I don't think that she does. Obviously, she really struggled over at ARCA, and then she comes over to the Truck Series, doesn't really do much better. So she's got a lot of learning to do. She's got a big spotlight on her. And I think people are judging her a bit hard because she kind of did make this jump too soon. I mean, what did you really expect from her? Did you really expect her to go out there and run top 10 every single week when she can't even run top 10 in ARCA? Come on.
Yeah.
What did you really expect?
That's my point. You got to kind of lower your expectations. And that's one thing I remember watching Eric Estep's interview. I guess we're going to kind of go off topic here with Haley Deegan. Her interview in her interview with Eric Estep, she actually wants to stay another year in the K&N and the ARCA series. She doesn't want to make that jump too quick. She put it this way: she'd rather waste one more year in the K&N Pro Series than waste 5 years in the Truck Series, which I think really for someone who's just 1 year older than me is a lot of maturity there.
Yes, and she knows Deegan is actually a really good studier of the game, in my opinion. I think she really looks around. She sees what other mistakes people have made. They realize, oh, there's a lot of these people that rush up too quick. So she's like, I don't want to rush up too quick here. Don't want to do anything too quick. I'll just take it easy, learn the ropes. Once I feel like I'm ready, I'll make the jump. And I really got to say, good on her for doing that. Good on her for doing that.
Right, and like I said earlier, she's just 1 year older than me, and that that's pretty young. So she definitely has a lot of time to make her way through the ranks. I mean, there's rumors about her coming out and doing some truck race, which I don't see why not. I mean, she's doing kind of the same thing with ARCA. And the more experience you can get, the better. But to do a full-time season, it probably is too early and just kind of needs to wait.
Speaking of young drivers, Tyler Ankrum won the truck race.
Yeah, I forgot to put that in the notes, but Tyler Ankrum.
We've got
the playoffs too. I didn't realize he was full-time actually.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. He is full-time. He didn't run the full season because he wasn't 18 yet at the start of the season, so he couldn't even qualify for the first 3 races. But yeah, that'll throw him directly into the playoffs. And clearly he's with this 17 truck that's running pretty well. Every single time he's been in the 17 truck, he's done very well. Yeah, he started a couple of times in Joe Nemechek's truck. He did not do well in that.
Well, people could.
Not many people could.
Yeah, and is that 17 truck really good equipment though? Because is that a newer team? Because I don't remember there being a 17 truck.
Same equipment as Natalie Decker.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Same.
Yeah. All right then.
Owned by David Gilliland.
Oh yeah. Now I know what team I couldn't remember what team he ran for.
Yep.
But yeah, definitely an impressive win, and I mean he had really one of the fastest trucks, if not the fastest. Tonight it wasn't really. It started raining, so I won. Like Justin Haley, like he did deserve that win. And shout out to him. I mean, that's really good. I mean,
absolutely, yep. And he beat Stuart Friesen to do it. So,
yeah. Speaking of Stuart Friesen, to segue our next thing, his 52 truck got stolen, not by people, like random people. NASCAR confiscated his truck. I can't remember the last time I've heard something like that happen. I don't think it.
Yeah, I've heard of NASCAR saying that, oh, your car is illegal after the fact. I've heard of that, but it's very rare for somebody to bring something so blatantly illegal to the track that NASCAR's like, we're taking this.
You can't have this. This is illegal. And I don't know if I never saw what the problem was, so I don't know. Maybe they brought like a bigger engine, or I don't even know what it would have been.
Yeah, I don't know what could have happened there either, but NASCAR's like, you're not running that.
Yeah. Moving on. Menard, that was probably the biggest story, which is weird. Same as Menard, but in the silly season sense of things. Throughout the weekend, as there were some rumors about his future in that 21 car. He did confirm he has one more year left, and I actually made a video about this that's coming out tomorrow, I think, Monday. Yep. Yeah, it seems like. So I guess I won't go too deep into detail about it, but Menard kind of had a resurgence last year, I guess, for Menard, not
general,
but for Menard, he had 7 top 10s, so somewhat resurgence, but this year has definitely not. I mean, he had a good race at Kentucky, but that's really
for Menard standards.
Yeah. Again, I mean, we have to place in an asterisk next to Menard, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about this with Menard, because to be quite honest, taking a look at the raw stats just by average finish, he obviously doesn't have the top 10s. He's obviously not running up front. He's not typically a chase contender. Menard is probably the most average driver in the Cup Series. When someone asks me, what do you think is the most average Cup driver ever, I would probably say Paul Menard, because when has he not been mid-pack? When has he not been 21st in the field? I mean, it's Paul Menard. That's just one thing. You think of mid-pack NASCAR, you think of Paul Menard. But no, really, this is actually, average finish-wise, this has actually been Paul Menard's best season in a very long time. Yeah, it surprises me, too, when I look at the stats. But he's got an average finish of better than 17th, and this is actually, at least to this point, his second best average finish, but he just doesn't have the top 10s because not only do you have the Wood Brothers equipment, which isn't as good as the main Penske cars, you also got the fact that he's not the greatest driver. I'm not saying that he's a bad driver. He's just not the greatest driver ever.
Yeah.
So he's not going to run in the top 10.
Yeah, and I think he gets a lot of flack because really, it's true. The only reason he's in the sport is because of his Menard sponsorship. But I think he does somewhat deserve. I think he has the talent to be in the Cup Series. But kind of like I said with Newman, he just kind of gets you results. Not as good as Newman's results. Don't get me wrong.
Right.
But he still gets you results that aren't terrible.
Yeah, that's the thing about Menard. He's not gonna light up the charts, but he typically doesn't tear up the equipment. He's gonna take it easy on the car. He's gonna get you finishes, not great finishes, but he's gonna get you finishes. He's just there to he's kind of like a transitional driver. He's there, but he's never going to like wow you. But he's going to try to do his best, to make sure he finishes the races and not tear up the equipment. So, does he deserve to be in the Cup Series? I'd say so. Does he deserve like the top ride in the Cup Series? No.
Yeah.
But he's good enough to be there.
Yeah, definitely. And the big driver rumored to be replacing him is Austin Cindric, who we mentioned earlier. He's been doing pretty good. I mean, he's been the fourth best driver in the Xfinity Series to this point. So I definitely would like to see him compete with the big three to kind of get a great assessment on him because he hasn't really done that yet. I mean, I don't think he even has a win to this date. Nope. So I would like to see him actually compete with the big three before I say he's ready for the Cup Series, win a couple races, but not the worst candidate, I would say.
No, he's not the worst candidate to go up there. I think it would be rushing Cindric a little bit to get him up into the Cup Series right now. I'd like to see him at least another 2 seasons in Xfinity before going up to Cup. Clearly that's worked for Cole Custer here in Christopher Bell alike. But yeah, I think it's just a little too soon. If they go ahead and pull the trigger with bringing Cindric up to the Cup Series for some reason, I mean, they could. But obviously it's not going to be next year because Menard's through to 2020. So
yes.
we could be looking at Cindric in the Cup Series for 2021. Mm-hmm. I still think that might be a little too soon, but we'll have to see what Cindric does next year.
Yeah,
in my opinion, to really see what he's going to do.
And while we don't know the landscape, and that's why when I made the video, I didn't really mention a lot of veterans to possibly maybe fill in for a year or two to give Cindric some more time. But we just don't know, people's contracts when they're up and all of that to fill in that spot.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing that's kind of baffled me about NASCAR is that they don't really release that information. When I think that you think of any other sports, I think of like the free agent market is typically like a huge talking point.
Yeah, it's almost like, at least in the NBA, it's in a whole nother season. Like it's pretty crazy.
I think that there's a lot of marketing value to get there, but NASCAR clearly thinks otherwise. They want to be different. I don't blame them for being different, and that's their decision. They know better than I do when it comes to marketing.
All right, so here is the next thing. I was scrolling through J-Ski before doing this, and I caught this. NASCAR expected to increase tire size on the Gen 7 cars. I'm just going to read some stuff here in the article. I'm not like the best with cars, so I can't really say how it's supposed to change how the race goes. You might be better at that, but I'll just go ahead and read this here. After decades of using 15-inch diameter tires, NASCAR and Goodyear will increase tire size diameter probably to 18 inches beginning in 2021 when the new Generation 7 Cup Series race car is put into use. Kicking the Tires has confirmed. I thought that was going to continue on, so I kind of said it with a different tone. It is not just a tire change. It is the overall Gen 7 package that everybody is working on for 2021, said Greg Stucker, That's an interesting name. Goodyear's director of racing. Part of the whole idea is to try to update the car somewhat, make it a little bit different or a little bit more relevant, rather, than what you see on the street these days. So I think there will probably be some more differentiation. That's a word. Among differentiation. Sorry, my English not the best. I am a NASCAR fan, so. Among manufacturers, the car itself will be totally different from a performance perspective. Very interesting. Last little bit here. And one of the things we are looking at is to go with a larger diameter tire. Oh, he just basically said that. Okay. All right. So that's really it. There's a couple. He just kind of reiterates what I just said there. It says, indeed, there is development work under the way on an 18-inch setup. So I don't know. I'm not the biggest knowing what that will do to the car. I don't know if you would know anything to enlighten me.
So what this is going to do, I think that this is probably the best news that I've heard about the Gen 7 cars, period. Because, like I said earlier, you have this battle between mechanical grip and aero grip. And drivers want to drive cars with mechanical grip, not necessarily aero grip, because the aero grip is what causes the dirty air. You add the wider tires. That's going to increase your mechanical grip, because what that ends up doing now is that's going to end up increasing what's called the contact patch on the pavement. So that means that more tire is actually going to be on the pavement, which means that you can actually get more grip. What that also means is that there's actually going to be more tire. So that means that the tires also aren't going to heat up as fast, and it's actually going to be harder to maintain the heat in the tires because of an increased surface area. So this, I love this idea of going up to the 18-inch tires. I think that's going to create more strategy in the race. I think that, again, that's going to alleviate the need for having needing more aero grip for the Gen 7 cars. And it's also going to put more skill back into the driver's hands. So I'm really loving this addition for Gen 7.
All right. That sounds pretty good. I'm liking it. And to kind of recap my thoughts on Gen 7, I'm excited for it. I also think it could be kind of rushed. I think going to 2021 could be a little bit of a rush, but who knows when. My point is, I don't know when it started. Whenever it started could change my opinion on that.
Yeah.
But I think if they're going to do it, they should do it right. And if 2021 is the right time for it, great. But if they need a couple more years, I'm not going to complain. And I would suggest that they wait a couple years is probably a better way to put it.
Well, NASCAR really thinks that they're going to be able to attract new manufacturers to the sport with the Gen 7. So we'll really have to see about that. We'll see what new manufacturers might actually end up coming back to the sport. Or just new manufacturers showing up to the sport in general. I think that idea is completely crazy, because the idea of any manufacturer this day and age putting together 1970 style V8 motors just blows my mind.
Yeah.
Why any new manufacturer outside of America would want to do that, I have absolutely no idea. But again, NASCAR, they've obviously been in contact with these other manufacturers. They've obviously been in contact with these guys. They've done their research, so they know what the other manufacturers want. And so that's what they're trying to pander to here with the Gen 7. They're really trying to get those new manufacturers.
Well, we actually have some Bob Pocker's tweets here that I'm going to say. That's about the package at New Hampshire. That's still New Hampshire. Here we go. There was somebody that tweeted, is NASCAR looking to add Honda as a new manufacturer? And then Bob Pocker's quote tweeted that, saying, Honda continues to say it is not interested. NASCAR is looking to add any manufacturer who is willing to be added.
Yeah. If Honda comes into NASCAR, I would be shocked, because Honda doesn't really make V8s. They're way more known for making their V6s. So if Honda comes into NASCAR, I'll just be baffled. It would be much more likely to say, if we're going to end up getting a foreign manufacturers, I would say manufacturers would probably be more like a Nissan or a Mercedes. Manufacturers actually do make these V8 engines quite a bit. If Honda ends up coming in, I think that would be very interesting, but it's just so different from what they usually make that I don't see them coming in either.
Well, one thing that's been talked about is maybe a hybrid engine being added, and I think that would hopefully aid that. And that's one thing. It's kind of a vague tweet saying they're not interested. It could mean just like right now, or it could also mean in the future.
About the hybrid stuff, I mean, for Gen 7, I don't see how a hybrid system would work in NASCAR, because
and I agree with that.
It's not the fact of turning fans away with a hybrid system. It's the fact of the logistics, because the way that these hybrid systems works in these cars is through something called the kinetic energy recovery system. So the batteries in these are charged on these cars by usage of the brakes. And if we're going to go ahead and use a package here that we really don't use a lot of brake with, why are we trying to push hybrids in such a package? I don't see how that would work on any track larger than 1.5 miles. I could see it working great at, say, Richmond or Bristol, Martinsville. I could see hybrids working there. I could see hybrids working great on the road courses. I think it would make the road course races and the short track races really good. But as far as the super speedways, I don't see how they could ever make a hybrid system work, especially at Daytona and Talladega, when you are full throttle and you are never using the brakes.
Yeah, and I didn't mean to do that with my eye. I agree with you on that. I don't think hybrid engines are the way to go. That's just something that's been rumored to be what the other manufacturers are wanting, and I think that's what it's going to have to take. We might have to look into doing that, because I think what NASCAR really needs is some more manufacturers putting money into the sport, but I don't know if that's really going to happen.
Yeah, we'll end up seeing. We'll just have to play this one by ear. Like I said, NASCAR, they're in discussions with the manufacturers, so they know what the other manufacturers want. And I know that this Gen 7 package are trying to cater to them. So
yeah,
we'll see what NASCAR comes out with here for this package.
Last thing here about the Gen 7. Another thing that a lot of people don't talk about is the manufacturers already in the sport. They do seem to be frustrated with the high cost, or maybe not manufacturers necessarily, but manufacturers and teams do seem to be growing frustrated. Is that how you say it? I don't know. With the cost it takes to run a team, make an engine, all of that, and I do believe that's something NASCAR is looking to do, is lower the cost of running a team, which again could bring in new manufacturers.
Yep. And that's something that's really hard with motorsports, is trying to control costs, because it's just not something that you can really control. You can go ahead and you can make as many parts as spec as you want, but you really can't micromanage the sport down to such a degree where you can control everyone's budget. So
exactly.
It's a fine line, unfortunately. Costs going up, eventually it happens to every single motorsport. NASCAR is no different. So it's a really hard thing to do. You can try to do things like ban wind tunnel testing. I don't know how they would enforce that, but they could try to do something like that. But then if you end up doing that, all these teams are going to invest a ton of money into computer simulations with wind testing. So they're going to put all their money into supercomputers instead of actually having a wind tunnel. And then that's going to cost even more money than the wind tunnel itself eventually. Right. So you could try to do stuff like that, but then a new thing comes up with a cost that you didn't even think was going to have. And then now the costs ended up going up again. So it's really tough to control costs in motorsports.
Yeah, yeah. So kind of coming to a close here, we want to go ahead and kind of preview. You can't really preview, like, just kind of guess, I guess, since it's Sunday and we don't know how drivers want to be when we actually get to the track on New Hampshire, at New Hampshire on Sunday. But what are your early predictions? I'll let you go first.
Yep. Well, here we go. So we're going to New Hampshire. I mean, this is basically Martinsville, but it's a mile long. That's pretty much what New Hampshire is. I do know that in the past, anyways, Kyle Larson has been very fast here at New Hampshire. He's shown it before. Denny, and of course, anybody that does really well at Martinsville usually does really well at New Hampshire. So I would expect to see both Penske cars doing very well. Completely leaving out Ryan Blaney there. Keep forgetting, he's Penske too. But yeah, Logano, Keselowski, I would expect both of them to perform very well. I would expect to see Truex up there, of course. Kyle Busch maybe lingering in the shadows. Kurt Busch, I would expect him to also be somewhere up near the front. But when it's all said and done, I would personally think that the favorite to win the race, just going out on a limb, I would probably say Martin Truex for win number 5 at Loudon.
Yeah, and that is his home track, correct?
No, Pocono would actually be his home track.
Oh, I thought he was from Jersey.
Yeah, well, he is from Jersey, but where he is in Jersey, I think he's only like half an hour away from Pocono, like 45 minutes away from Pocono. He's pretty far away from Dover. It's hard to get out there to the peninsula to get to Dover. But yeah, Loudon, I guess, is kind of like his secondary home track.
Yeah. Okay. So I would say I kind of looked at last year's results, which I guess isn't the best precursor, but it looked like Kevin Harvick and Kyle Busch were pretty good there. Chase Elliott, that was kind of the turning point, right? Well, Pocono kind of was because he won a stage there, or Pocono, is he win? No, it's the one after that. But anyways, so I would say Chase Elliott's going to have a pretty good race because if you think about it, last year he was having a really bad season up until this point, or an average season.
Yeah, well, all of the Chevys have been struggling since they went to the Camaro.
Yeah, and it was kind of the turning point of last season here at New Hampshire. Obviously, the big turning point for Chase was
winning at Watkins Glen.
But kind of the lead up to that was New Hampshire. So I'm going to assume Chase Elliott's going to have a pretty good race. So I'll put him. We're going to pick 3 here. I'll probably have him. Truex is always usually pretty good here, and I don't know. I think Jimmy Johnson also had a pretty good race here last year, so we'll see. Larson, you said, is usually pretty good here. I'll go with him as well. I'm not picking. I'm just kind of pointing out.
Yeah.
Well, can't go against Harvick or Busch. Maybe other Busch, Kurt Busch. You know, he didn't do bad last year.
Led the most laps.
He did lead the most laps, and just came off a win. So I don't see any reason why he shouldn't have momentum. So I think definitely keep an eye on him throughout the race. And that's really all I got.
Yeah, Loudon, you know what you're pretty much going to get, but we're going to have to see what happens here at Loudon with this new package, because Loudon is notoriously known for not having the greatest races in the world. But then again, so is Kentucky, and then again, so is Pocono. And whoever put those 3 races back to back on the schedule, I think needs a mental examination.
Well,
I don't know why you would put those 3 races.
Whoever gave Pocono a back-to-back on the same weekend. That I don't even know if I can watch that.
Traffic is going to be horrible here.
I want to keep it 100. I don't know if I'm going to be able to watch that entire thing. I mean, that's 600 miles essentially because it's 2 300s. Holy, that's 600 miles at Pocono. That's not going to be fun. But anyways, so my picks, my top 3, I'm going to say Chase Elliott, Kyle Busch, and Kurt Busch.
All right. Well, I guess if I have to pick 3, I'm going to go with Truex, Keselowski, and Logano.
I guess I didn't mention the Penske team, but I'm gonna stick with what I got.
That's fine.
Say, as a dark horse, let me look through here. Dark horse pick is gonna have to be Ryan Blaney. I don't know why. I just have a feeling he might be a dark horse there. It's all you.
I'm gonna, as far as a dark horse pick, I'm gonna say Chris Buescher gets another top 10 this week.
Yeah, that's definitely a good one. And who knows?
I think Chris Buescher gets another top 10. He has
actually been better at mile and a half than he has been at the other tracks, which is last year that would be almost unheard of.
Yeah, well, Chris Buescher, he's actually very good at the mile and a halves, but it can't be discounted that JTG also has a very good program here at the shorter tracks, and JTG notoriously good at Martinsville and the road courses. So
and Bristol too,
and Bristol too. So that's why. Well, yeah, whatever. But yeah, JTG notoriously good at the short tracks and the road courses. I'm gonna lump Loudon in as a short track, even though people will be like, but it's a mile long. It plays very much like Martinsville, so
it's basically Martinsville's big brother.
Yep, I'm going to go out on a limb. I'm going to say Chris Buescher for back-to-back top 10s.
All right, and then the last thing here, who do you think is going to have an off week this week?
Ooh, off week this week. Man, who do I think is going to have the off week? Well, I got to think of somebody who's been on it recently, because the person that I think is going to be most likely to have an off week would probably be Denny Hamlin, but I don't know how good he's been doing recently.
He was in fifth, I believe, fifth or fourth.
Fifth, fourth or fifth, yeah, fifth. So yeah, I'm gonna say that Denny Hamlin. I don't even think he cracks the top 10.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with. Let me check. Let's see. Let's look at these results today. I'm going to go opposite of you. You had Keselowski in your top 3. I think Keselowski's going to have an off week.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, he finished 20th last week at a track that he's usually very good at, so we'll have to see. Oh, yeah.
All right. Sorry about that. Parents love walking in on me. So
that's all right.
I think that's it for our race preview. I don't know. Hopefully it's not like Dover, because even though Alex Bowman actually did good there, which he's not my favorite driver, but one of them, it was a pretty boring race. So hopefully it's not like Dover, which I don't think it will be.
I think it will be. I think it's going to be very much like the Martinsville race that Keselowski dominated.
Probably Martinsville would be more comparable. So it's a flat track as well as getting that. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. And any I don't got anything. You got anything else you want to talk about here at the end?
Nope. I think we've covered pretty much most of everything here.
All right. Well, thank you guys for watching, and we'll be back next week. Hopefully Friday night this time. Hopefully Chenery doesn't have to go to a funeral, and I'm assuming you'll be back.
I mean, if you guys want me back on, I'll be more than happy to come back on. I'll be more than happy to come back on. I definitely enjoyed my time here.
Yeah, it was definitely a fun conversation. We're get some other people in here as well. There's somebody else who couldn't make it. So anyways, yeah, that's really all I got. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for watching, you guys out there. If you haven't already, hit that like, hit that subscribe button, and it smashed the like. Oh my gosh, I didn't get all hit
smash the likes, hit the subscribe,
whatever, you know what. Hit buttons, just
hit random buttons. It doesn't matter.
Random buttons, all right. Anyways, anything you want to shout out before we go?
I mean, for shameless self-promotion, of course, I've got my own YouTube channel where I've been doing NR 2003 races. I actually used to be on Twitch, and I've been live streaming them since 2014. But I've been doing NR 2003 races, an entire alternate universe. They're called the Throwbacks. It's great. I'm actually in the 1991 season as we speak. So if you want to go over to my channel at Vacate the 48 and watch that stuff, that would be awesome. So you can go ahead and check that out. Latest race I ended up uploading was Watkins Glen, and that was an awesome race. I can't believe I got a good road course race out of that game. So go ahead and check that out if you guys want.
Yeah, and I guess from future reference, I didn't ask him before. I'll have his link in the description below in future podcasts. So that's really all I got. Make sure to hit that subscribe button, like I said earlier. I got a video coming out tonight at 5. I have another one coming out Monday and Tuesday. I have 2 separate ones coming out Monday and Tuesday. So be sure to check those out. And like I said, we'll hopefully have it on Friday. That's our usual time. So we'll see how it goes, and that's all I got. Peace out.
All right.
That's the wrong button.